What is going on, miners, and welcome back to the Hobbyist Miner channel. Well, in today's video, we're going to be installing our S19J Pro Bitcoin mining ASIC in our crypto mining shed. Before we go ahead and dive in, today's video is sponsored by the team over at 𝐷𝐬𝐻. 𝐷𝐬𝐻 is a complete Bitcoin mining solutions provider and the largest distributor of Bitcoin mining equipment in the United States. 𝐷𝐻 is your one-stop shop for everything ASIC mining, from Bitcoin miners ranging from the S19 Pro Hydro all the way up to the Antminer S19J Pro. If you're looking to take mining to the next level, 𝐷𝐻 has you covered. With facility build-out services, turnkey mining containers, power transformers, and finally complete hosting services. Check them out at the link down below in the video description. Thanks again to 𝐷𝐻 for supporting the Hobbyist Miner community. Alrighty guys, so let me go ahead and kind of give the details here as to exactly what we have going on today. So we have our S19J Pro and we haven't had it running for several weeks now. We had it in our garage, it was too loud, it was getting too hot, wife really didn't like it. And if you guys remember, I had a video out on kind of muting your ASIC, or it was a soundproofing box from the team over at Cryptology Consulting. And I'll actually put a link up to that card and video in the upper corner if you guys want to go ahead and check it out. We tested out a soundproofing box. It worked really well, but it could work better if it actually had a true intake and exhaust setup, per my conversation with the Cryptology Consulting team. So, that being said, today we are taking our Bitmain S19J Pro and we're installing it into our crypto mining shed. Okay, so my shed has shrunk significantly just with all the stuff we have in the shed right now, trying to make room for it. But let me kind of show you guys what we're doing, and then we're going to get in some testing along the way to give you guys some of the metrics. So we have our intake over here. It's an 8-inch intake. We already have our foil tape on it as well as our hose clamp. We have an 8-inch ductwork running into this beauty. This is really nice, honestly. This is the AC Infinity 8-inch air filter box. Check this out, guys. All right, so check this out. So this is their 8-inch air filter box. Comes with their own AC Infinity air filter, which is just a 14 by 20 by 1-inch filter. And you can see it has the direction of the airflow. So I'm thinking about doing it this way. And what we're doing is you can actually feel the air coming in from the outside already, just the way that the suction is with. We have all 4 of our fans currently on at 30% or 20% actually. So our air is going to come in, go through our MERV filter, and then out this way. Now, for our first test, what we're going to do is this is the Antminer S19J Pro. It's a Bitcoin miner. It does 104 terahash on Bitcoin. And this is from the team over at 𝐷𝐻. So go check them out. I'll put a link directly down below. So I have 2 cables here for power, and then our Ethernet runs up, plugs in. For power, I have just one of my PDUs. This is a 888 PDU. If you guys are looking for one, this is my favorite. This is actually the only ones I use. You have some of your S14s over here, your C14s, you got your C19s over here, each of these 12 amps. These are 8 amps, and then on the back, check out all these 8 amp, which are amazing on the back. This is the PDU 1230. I'll put a link down below if you guys are looking for one. It's my favorite. And then we do have our 2 cables. So you actually need to run the S19J Pro on 2 different 8 amps because it uses so much. So I'll put it on 2 separate ones. If you put them on the same one, it will go ahead and top that. So we'll go ahead and get this installed on here, and then it's going to exhaust out the back. And for this test, it's just going to exhaust in this area, which this fan will pick up the heat no problem. So my goal is to test out this unit just like this, sitting here, kind of sucking some air through. And my goal is not to, I mean, we'll do the temps, but I have no concern on the temps. I mean, it's cool outside actually right now in Pennsylvania finally. 78 on that side, 78 on this side. But my goal is to test out sound. I want to see 3 different areas of sound. The first one is at my neighbor's house, over towards their house, because they sit outside all the time. So we're going to test the dB on that with a sound meter on my phone. We're then going to test inside the shed, and then we're gonna test right behind this wall over here, when that is at full throttle at 104 terahash, which is pretty loud. Now, if you guys aren't familiar, why these units are loud is not the actual ASIC miner, it's these fans. These fans are absolutely insane. They do somewhere like 6,000 RPMs or something like that. If you were to take those fans off, that unit would be entirely silent. So we're gonna test it out like this. I'm gonna plug it in, we'll test everything out, and then I'm gonna install this guy. And this is the soundproofing box that I did have a video on previously. I'll put a link there. Let me go ahead and open it up for you. So our Antminer is gonna go right here in the soundproofing box. Sorry, there was a piece of trash or something in there. It's gonna sit right in here. Our intake's gonna be on this side because it has a grommet area to go ahead and get that plugged in for our power and also for our Ethernet. And then our unit's gonna sit in there. The lid's gonna go on top. Trying to do this one-handed, it's kind of hard. Sorry. Okay. And then on the intake side, this unit's gonna mount to the front, covering that up. Here, why don't I just scoot this over? There we go. It's gonna mount to the front and have the adapter. And then on this side, this unit's gonna do the same thing. So, let me go ahead and run my test, and then I'll be back in a few minutes and we will go ahead and get this unit installed with the soundproofing box, the full intake and full exhaust, completely sealed off from the room, and we'll see how we do on our second test, which will be testing out having a dedicated intake inside our soundproofing box from the team over at Cryptology Consulting. So I'll be back here shortly. Okay guys, so we finished our first test, we went through the metrics. Now we're gonna get this unit installed right in that slot right there. All right, so I wanted to show this off before we slid it into place and going ahead and taped everything up and clamped it down. So here's how the box will look. You can see down below here, we do have our power cables and our Ethernet cable. Those will go ahead and get into the PDU. Ethernet runs around. So check this out guys, this is the unit from Cryptology. I'll put a link down below. You can see it goes ahead and secures into the unit here, and it gives us an 8-inch adapter. So it's 8-inch and then has the perfect shape and cutout for the actual setup here with the mesh. You could also actually attach these directly to the ASIC itself if you didn't want to go with the soundproofing box. Now, I don't know all the fine details, but go over to cryptocloaks.com. Apparently this is made with some type of 3D printed material that can take the heat that the ASIC will be putting out. So we have our white one on our cold side, and we have our orange one on the hot side over here. So let me get this slid into place. It's gonna be a really tight fit, and I'll get everything clamped down. All right, here she is. Now, there's definitely room for improvement, and everything I secured down, but I also set it up so that I could remove things and change things around if needed. Nothing was permanent here. So let's run through it start to finish. So we have our intake, go into the 8-inch AC Infinity ductwork into our AC Infinity air filter box. Ooh, I can feel that air coming out of there. It then is going to travel through and go through here into our adapter, and I locked it down right before the edge of that adapter. There's barely even a finger gap between the air filter box and the adapter. It then is going to flow into our box. From our box, it's going to flow into our second adapter, which is then going to go ahead and meet up here. And then from there, it's going to meet up with our exhaust ductwork going outside. So I will tape everything once we've gone through this. I did just want to get the hose clamps in place so I could do testing. And then for sound, really, we will be checking temperature, but I don't have any concerns, especially when it's 76 degrees out. It is, what time is it at night? Let's check our phone. 9 p.m. at night. So yeah, hanging out in my shed, 9 p.m. at night, just me and my mining gear. So I think it's time to go ahead and plug it in. We got our Ethernet ready to go. So let's come down here. Gonna plug one in on that side. Sorry, doing this one-handed. And we should hear the noise here in just a minute on our other side. All right, so we're plugged in. I can't hear it. Oh, there it is. I'll say I can't hear anything yet, but now I hear it. So we'll give it, I think the last one ran for about 10 minutes, and then we'll do some more sound testing and go from there. So I thought I would jump in and start to go through our metrics. So we're going to start at the beginning. I recorded a handful of different metrics. We have a baseline, we have before the soundproofing box, and then we have our metrics after the soundproofing box. So let's go ahead and set our baseline here. So we're talking about the shed with the AC Infinity T16 fans running at 20%. And here's our baseline. So go bring it up real quick. So don't look at the number at the top because that's at the time that I took the screenshot. I want you to look at the average number down below, right in the middle, 61 dB. So this is at my neighbor's deck. So this is like 25 feet away at my neighbor's deck, maybe a little bit more actually. This is really where my concern is. I don't want to go too loud with what I'm doing in my shed because I don't want problems. So this is something that I'm actively monitoring. So 61. Moving on there, let's talk about on the exhaust side of the shed. So this would be the outside of the shed on the from the T16s where the air is blowing and everything like that. This was at 75 dB. And then inside the shed, 79 dB is where we were. And it's just standing right in the middle of the shed. No mining rigs running, anything like that. Just the fans running, holding my phone straight in front of me. So that gives us some baselines. So now let's go ahead and look at the before. So what did everything look like with just the Antminer S19J Pro placed in place? We had the airflow box to the right. We had no ductwork run, and it was just it sitting right on the floor, wired up. What were we seeing? So let's go ahead and talk about by the deck. So at that point, we were at 63 dB. So we were only 2 dB higher from when it was our baseline. It's actually not too bad. But here's one thing I noticed that I want to make sure I reiterate multiple times through this with you guys. I noticed very much so that the dB did not go up a lot, but there was this whine noise, this high-pitched whine noise that the ASIC makes that doesn't really get picked up on the sound meter, this app. I tried a few different apps, but on our dB scale. So that is one thing that you can't actually like measure here. Some of you guys may be significantly more intelligent. This may be your world and experience. Maybe you can explain it. And if there's another way to measure it, please let me know. So now let's go ahead and talk about, so we were at 63 there. On the outside, which is the exhaust side, so we were at 74 dB. If we go back to our baseline there, it was actually 75. So literally we were seeing no difference from our baseline to actually running the ASIC on the exhaust side of things. Okay, cool. Now granted, keep in mind, the ASIC was just exhausting inside the shed. So, 74, 75, I'm going to write that off. That's within the level of error, the way that I would look at it. And now let's go ahead and look at inside the shed, which is the next one to look at. So with the ASIC running inside the shed, we were at 83 dB. If we go back to our baseline inside the shed, we were at 79 dB. So we went up 4 dB. Now, as I said before, I really don't feel that whine and high-pitched noise that an ASIC makes, which actually is just the fans. Remember, we talked about the fans on the outside of it. I don't think that it was picking up on that, or however that's measured. I don't know. This is not my world, guys. As I said, I'm just a regular Joe Blow here, showing you guys what I'm doing. When the ASIC was just sitting freely, running inside the shed, you can see the dashboard is up and available. So it's up for about 7 minutes or so. We're at 106 terahash, so better than the 104 that's advertised. But a few things to look at. You can see the hash rate numbers are good, they're normal, network status is good, fan speed is normal, and miner temperature is normal. And if we go down below, you can see we're about 5,400, we'll say on average for our fan speed. Now here's some big ones, and because this is going to be important on the next results. Our inlet temperature is around 52 to 51. Celsius, and our outlet temperature is 66 to 69ish, somewhere around there. Okay, some numbers to keep in mind. Now let's talk about the after. Okay, it's inside of that soundproofing box. Let's talk about by the deck. What is our measurement at? So we had talked about 61 was our baseline, 63 was sitting freely in the shed, and now we're at 63 again. Awesome. Like, I guess, like, you know, we're not really seeing an improvement there, but maybe we'll see improvement elsewhere. But I will say this, that I can't show on here. The whine noise was almost gone with the soundproofing box. So we had the same decibels of the unit sitting inside of the shed versus the unit in the soundproofing box, but the whine noise that, as I talked about, isn't really measurable, was almost gone, which that was awesome because that's the annoying part of an ASIC miner. Let's talk about behind it. So behind it, our exhaust was at 74. So we're not really seeing, I'm sorry, 74 dB behind the shed and the exhaust side. So we're not really seeing a difference there. Nothing at all. When I go inside the shed, we were at 74 dB now. So, ooh, when you're close up around the ASIC, you're actually seeing a very significant difference. If I go to when the ASIC was freely sitting inside of the shed, we were at 83 dB. When we went to it inside the soundproofing box, I'm just flipping back and forth, we're at 74. So we're about 10 dB difference right in front of the miner. That's really significant. That's where you're seeing these results. But outside of my shed, on the neighbor side, on the exhaust side, we're not seeing any dB level difference at all. So if you're thinking about this, like, oh, you know, what direction could I go with this? Could I use the soundproofing box as an app? So should you use it? It's really going to come down to location. Are you in the same room as the ASIC? If so, you're going to see a pretty big, significant difference. Now, this is where it gets rough. Taking a look at my miner dashboard, it stopped mining. The hash rate, that's what it says, abnormal. The miner temperature was abnormal. And if I go down, my fans actually went up from 5,400 RPM to 5,800 RPM. My inlet temperatures are 84, 85, and my outlet temperatures are 90 to 88. So, what does this tell us? This tells us while the unit was quieter, the airflow was restricted significantly based off of that setup. So I'm like, all right, so like, is the air filter box restricting airflow too much? In my mind, and granted, this is my mind, guys, is the fans on the ASIC aren't strong enough to pull air through the air filter box. I mean, literally, it was a straight pipe. So it's not sucking that air through the air filter box and from outside, and it wasn't exhausting it well enough. So that heat was spewing inside of it. So what does that tell us? That tells us that, at least in my perspective, and there's another YouTube channel I do want to reference, Space Warehouse. I mean, I love this YouTube channel. This guy is amazing. I'm gonna put a link down below. He has really dove into all different scenarios with the Antminer S19J Pro and with the soundproofing boxes and stuff. So go check him out. Really cool channel. He ran into some of these same results, and what he ended up doing, which is where I got my idea from, so kudos to him. We've been chatting back and forth on Twitter here and there, is I will be going ahead and looking at adding an AC Infinity inline fan to the front intake and the rear to help move that air through this dedicated system. So yeah, it's a real bummer though, because of the fact that, like, standing alone, the soundproofing box isn't going to be able to, it heats up too much. You got to have better airflow through this thing. And so maybe that's a recommendation out to Cryptology, is the fact of Cryptology. Wow, where's my head at? It's 11:30 at night. I'm sorry. Cryptology Consulting. Wow, where am I going here, guys? recommendation to them that maybe this kit needs to be sold with all the pieces. So it needs to be like the adapters, which I think they come with them now, from Crypto Cloaks. Shout out to those guys for providing the adapters. The adapters need to be sold with it, and then on top of that, the inline fans need to be sold with it. You know, and like the ductwork, like, you know, the air filter might not be needed, but in my case, I absolutely want to have one because of just pulling in all that outside air. Not everybody has an outside kind of intake solution there, but I've rambled on. But hopefully this has been informative for you guys. It's been a longer video at this point. So let's go ahead and jump back to the shed and we'll talk about our next upcoming steps. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this unplugged. All right, so now that we have that done, disappointed by the results. I thought it would do better. Honestly, the one thing I did notice was, and I don't know that the dB meter picks this up, but the high-pitched whine noise, that was what I found was significantly less. Inside the shed, over by my neighbor's house, on the exhaust side, the whining noise was definitely lower. So I still consider this valuable without a doubt, but at the end of the day, it's overheating and I can't have that. So what's my solution? Because I definitely want to have my Bitcoin miner running in here. So moving forward, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to eliminate the soundproofing box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our adapters and connect them directly to the ASIC. But I'm going to remove the fans from the ASIC. And the adapter is going to get connected to each side of the ASIC. Now, how's that going to solve my airflow? Well, it's not. Before my adapter and after my adapter, we are going to install AC Infinity 8-inch fans. So we're going to shove airflow down the front of that unit, and then we're going to cram airflow, pull it right through. So what it's going to look like, and I'm going to do this in a future video, is intake vent, air filter box, AC Infinity 8-inch fan, adapter, into the ASIC, adapter, exhaust fan, exhaust vent. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So I think it's going to wrap things up for today, guys. It's getting late here, and my neighbors probably think I'm crazy inside, talking to myself inside the shed, but that's kind of my game plan. I am going to put links to everything. Put links to the filter box, the adapters. By the way, huge shout out to Crypto Cloaks for providing those. They actually hooked right up to this thing really nicely. Cryptology Consulting for providing the soundproofing box. I truly do appreciate it. Also the AC Infinity fans, I'll put them down below. Other than that, guys, I think that is going to wrap things up for today. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Leave any questions, comments, concerns down below. Coming up soon, I'm going to have my rack that I'm going to be putting in place here. It's going to be 60 inches. Come over to here. We're going to get the rest of our GPUs in here, which I think that'll work out awesome. So as much fun as this video was, not as successful as I expected it to be, but hey, that's mining. We learn as we go. Well, guys, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And finally, don't forget to subscribe. Take care.